And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's now head out to Capitol Hill. Live picture there on the Hill in Washington as so many lawmakers reacting now again to this brewing feud between the president and his most prolific backer, financial backer, and supporter of the MAGA movement, Elon Musk here. We want to do this, especially in relation to the likelihood of passage in the Senate of the big, beautiful bill. We're going to speak about all of this there with Savannah Burman of the National Journal. She joins me. Savannah, good to see you here. We'll get into the bill in a moment. That seems to be the secondary sideshow story of the day. Sources that you have spoken to today, do they think the rift between Musk and Trump can be repaired or no?
You know, that's one of the big questions emerging from Capitol Hill today. And as you said about this reconciliation bill, how much this rift is going to impact the Senate's ability to actually pass this big, beautiful bill. And it kind of seems like the BBB has rather turned into this big, beautiful breakup. And it's something that senators saw coming earlier this week. Once Elon Musk called it a disgusting abomination on Tuesday, they started to kind of see that rift as being inevitable and impacting the ability to pass this budget bill. But it's kind of remaining to be seen how much of Elon Musk's influence here will actually have with Republican senators. But it certainly is giving ammo to fiscal conservatives who are saying that the bill doesn't cut enough of the deficit.
Okay, let's talk about the deficit. I've been asking reporters like yourself all week, even last week too, does it cut the deficit or not? Or does it add to the deficit? We got the CBO score just yesterday saying it adds $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years here. But Speaker Johnson is saying, other Republicans are saying, the White House is saying that the spending cuts are enough, that nowhere near in congressional U.S. history has one bill in one fell swoop cut as much spending here. So who's right?
You know, we won't know until it's a few years down the line and we actually see the ramifications of this big, beautiful bill. It's a massive bill. And as you said, the nonpartisan congressional budget office estimates that it's going to cost $2.4 trillion. But that is an argument and a number that leadership in both the House and the Senate have kind of run away from. They've said, as you said, that extending the tax cuts are offset by some of those spending cuts in other areas. But some Republicans in the Senate aren't buying that argument. One of those being Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He's saying that this bill is causing more to the deficit and has specifically drawn into concern some of those numbers from the CBO. But interestingly enough, today, he told reporters that he wants to compare the data from the CBO with some other think tanks and some other data from other economists to provide to his Senate Republicans so they can have all of the data before them as they actually start to contemplate how much this would add to the deficit.
Okay, let's get into the meat of the bill, specifically with regard to now the feud between the president and Elon Musk here. EV tax credits, they're not in there. Musk is clearly incensed by this. Why are they getting pulled out of this? Were they ever in it to begin with? And what is it? What are they?
Yeah, so the EV tax credits are being taken out. Now, Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, is saying that electric vehicles are being unfairly targeted here, that gas-powered vehicles aren't being targeted in the same way in this legislation. And not only are the tax credits being taken out, but I believe there's an additional fee of about $250 for people who own electric vehicles already. So it is an attempt to go after electric vehicles here, but Republicans are saying that you're sharing the road with vehicles that are only powered by fuel and by gas. And so it needs to be a fair share of the road there. But obviously Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, wanted to see the tax credits remain in there, but they are being taken out. But we'll have to see if that remains to be seen. Obviously, this legislation is changing in the Senate, and there are some Senate Republicans as well who want to see those tax credits remain.
Let's talk about those Senate Republicans here. What else? What else don't they like about the House version? We heard there from John Thune after his meeting with President Trump yesterday about this very same time, saying we're going to amend it, we're going to revise it, we're going to refine it, he said. What does that mean? What does that look like?
There are going to be significant changes to this bill. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson is asking Senate Republicans not to make significant changes, pointing to the slim majority that he also has within his chamber. But Senate Republicans want some changes related to raising the debt ceiling. Senator Rand Paul, in particular, has repeatedly drawn concern to that over and over, and has said that if the provision raising the debt ceiling by $4 to $5 trillion is taken out, he could get on board the bill. But if you have Rand Paul, Ron Johnson, and just one other senator ultimately vote no against this legislation, it fails. So John Thune's working with a really small majority, and so is Mike Johnson.
So, Savannah, one of the criticisms from Elon Musk over the last week has been you can't have both. You can't have a big bill and a beautiful bill at the same time. You can separate them. He is calling for a very slimmed down version. Is there any talks of that just yet? Separating this bill out into separate alternate bills? Do you think we're going to move into that part of the conversation soon?
It's interesting because that's kind of where this conversation took off. Senate Republicans originally had proposed the idea of doing two reconciliation bills, one that focused on the tax portion, which is what's kind of slowing down the momentum of this bill currently. That's where a lot of our disagreements are rooted in, are the tax policy and provision portions of this bill. Senate Republicans originally wanted to do that portion and then do the national security, border, immigration portion that is such a large pillar to this bill. Now, that was something that they had discussed last week, leaving some of their meetings, and it's certainly a topic that's been floated again and again. But reconciliation to get through one time is hard enough. I'm not sure if there is a desire to go back to the drawing board and restart this whole thing like Elon Musk had suggested again yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that they are wanting to make some amendments, send it back to the House, and hopefully try to get something on President Trump's desk soon. But they've admitted themselves that that July 4th deadline is starting to look a little harder and harder.
You know, Savannah, I was reminded, and maybe some of our viewers forgot, but during the government funding fight back in December, in that fight, Elon Musk really inserted himself into that kind of legislative jockeying. And many at the time were saying, you know, he's the co-president, no one elected him, why is he even getting involved here? And yet, fast forward almost 6 months, and we're seeing him insert himself into yet another legislative fight here. How is that going down on Capitol Hill, especially amongst Republicans? Do they just want him to stay out?
I think at this point, Republicans want him to stay out. Senator Kramer told a group of us yesterday before he went over to the White House to meet with President Trump, him and some Senate finance Republicans went over to the White House to meet on this budget bill. But he had said something that was kind of funny, where he said, you know, I would trust Elon Musk if I wanted to go to the moon, but I'm not so sure about reconciliation and spending. So I think that at this point, especially with Elon Musk taking such a big step back from his role at the White House and his role with Doge, that Republicans are kind of wanting a separation here. They like to be independent anyway, and so they don't like a lot of outside influence. And there was a lot of frustration with Elon Musk's outside influence during that December battle over that separate legislation that you had mentioned.
Yeah, Savannah, to that point, I've been hearing and I've been seeing online that this is somewhat of a rude awakening for Musk, that, you know, politics is not his forte, and he is learning it in real time as we speak. And I have to ask, you know, he was really calling into question some of these really fiscal hawks when it comes to fiscal policy, like even Speaker Mike Johnson, calling their bona fides into question here. How are they responding to that? You know, Speaker Johnson yesterday in a press conference with House GOP leadership called Musk a good friend, and they were on the phone for 20 to 30 minutes. Is he singing that same tune today, Johnson?
Mike Johnson today, I believe, had said that he was playing a little bit of phone tag with Elon Musk, and both him and Senate Majority Leader John Thune have expressed some frustration over Elon Musk's criticism, and especially his vocal criticism. So I think both of the leaders have been attempting to get on the phone with Elon Musk, have been attempting to kind of make this situation not what it's turned into currently, which is a very public disagreement between two of the world's most powerful men. And these are two men who have been kind of seen as the leaders of this party and have been so influential, particularly within the first 100 days of this administration. So I think that the leadership was wanting it not to come to blows as it has now, because it certainly does make passing this big, beautiful bill that much harder.
Okay, lastly, Savannah, it does seem like some House Republicans, they want some type of peace summit. Warren Davison there from Ohio, the Republican, he said this on X just today. He said, I would love to host a private dinner among friends with Trump, Vance, Musk, Johnson, and Massey. He says, tomorrow night, maybe. Is it still too fresh? Will any of those individuals take Davison up on the offer?
I think at this point, I mean, I think that you could perhaps eliminate Elon Musk and Rep. Thomas Massey from that list, and the rest of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Speaker Mike Johnson are all kind of on friendly terms, but certainly Elon Musk and Rep. Thomas Massey here, who are more fiscally concerned about this bill and are calling for bigger deficit cuts to this bill, are more on the same wavelength. But Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Speaker Mike Johnson are kind of on the same wavelength. So we are seeing a growing fracture within the Republican Party on this spending bill that's certainly been accentuated and highlighted by this now public feud between Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
All right, Savannah Burman, never a dull day in Washington. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, let's kind of get the lowdown abbreviated in this report filed by our colleague and friend there, Fox's Connor Hansen, about this dynamic playing out in Washington today. Let's watch.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
The battle over President Trump's big, beautiful bill is starting to get ugly, firing off a series of posts on his social media platform in real time while Trump was talking Thursday. Elon Musk is urging Republicans to, quote, ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. President Trump is suggesting the world's richest man and Tesla CEO is upset over cuts to EV incentives.
I'll be honest, I think he misses the place. I think he got out there and all of a sudden he wasn't in this beautiful Oval Office.
Senate leaders have a goal of getting the bill on President Trump's desk by the 4th of July, but members have made it clear they plan to leave their mark on it.
We would like a little more cutting than the House has done. Anytime we reduce spending and yield a savings for the American people, that is a positive.
The Congressional Budget Office says the bill will add nearly $2.5 trillion to the deficit and leave more than 10 million Americans uninsured. But President Trump lashing out in another post, saying there's an easier way to cut billions and billions from the budget by terminating Elon's government contracts. Democrats are still united against the bill, meaning Republicans can only afford to have 3 GOP senators vote no. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
Connor, thanks so much. All right, in the meantime here, we're a little past the bottom of the hour. We still have a lot more to get to. Let's take a quick commercial break, though, first. We'll see you in just a moment.